We live in a time where it's cool to be evil. And if you are speaking the truth, then you are considered lethal. Dang. Please do not let them deceive you. The Most High is coming back soon with vengeance and wrath for the evil. I do not care if they kill me. You see, 'cause my soul is immortal. The money and gold not important. The Most High restoring the order. I pray for your sons and your daughter. Real.
So it's up to you how you want to get into this. I have my own notes, but also I kind of just pulled up, like, I know we'll get into scripture from the 66 in canon, or in the Eurocentric canon, and then we also have like I've got the Apocalypse of Abraham. I think Baruch is up here.
Baruch?
Right. So I just kind of brought up like some of the books that I thought you might mention.
Okay.
But it's up to you.
Whoa. Oh Lord. Okay. Well, all right.
Okay, so last time, I mean, this is kind of part 3 between like the 400 years and then the wilderness, and we went to the wilderness last time.
Yeah.
But this wilderness mostly, I think, when people think about it, comes up in Revelation 12, where the woman is fleeing into the wilderness for 3.5 years. And so I guess we'll start there.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, okay. I'll grab it then a little bit, because, and also too. So you have this. This is a Google Doc. I'm gonna just on my own just pull up the whole chapter.
Okay. I can, if you want, I can share this out. But I know you have your own notes, so I didn't really want to.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to follow these, because we don't have to.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Well. So man, there's obviously so much, so many layers here. You know, in Revelation 12, we do see wilderness referred to here at 2 different times. And so there's several readings of this that I've heard, that the chapter itself is being redundant, speaking of the same wilderness period, or that there are 2 separate wilderness periods. You know, I've heard multiple interpretations. I'm going to be honest, the way that I interpret this, I come back to Revelation 12 a lot. And what makes the most sense to me is that the woman who is clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. I think we've established, we know who that is. That's Israel, crying and travailing in birth and in pain to be delivered. We see a great red dragon, which I don't know what your interpretation of the dragon is. I kind of see it as the consolidated, worldly powers that are coming together. I guess we would say like under the banner of Babylon, in order to make a confederacy against that woman, and of course the man-child, which we all know is our Messiah, right. Yeshua HaMashiach. So in this particular context, our first use of the woman fleeing into the wilderness, I personally see it, since it happens after the man-child, our Messiah, was caught up into God in his throne. I personally see this verse 6, where the woman flees into the wilderness, where she had the place prepared of God, and that they should feed her there 1,260 days. I actually think that this could have to do with the remnant that fled the siege, the believing remnant, that were scattered into the winds. And how do I put it? We know that there was a significant amount of time between the siege and the fleeing into Africa, and then what happened in Spain as well. We know that there was a significant period of time, as the time of the Gentiles began, between that time of fleeing and then the persecution that occurred in the 400-year period when we were taken on ships and we were scattered throughout the four winds. We know that we were also contending with the forces of Islam as well within that time. So for me, this particular wilderness describes the initial period of time after the siege when the fleeing was going on. This is just my particularly into West Africa. This is just my feeling about it. I don't know how you see that before I continue on. I'll leave it there for you just to let me know if that's how you've seen it or if you've seen it a different way.
Excuse me. I'm not sure. I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
I'll say that. So, so this wilderness, you feel like it already took place?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason I do is because when we get to where are we at? The now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. And the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives until death.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Okay, so I had initially seen this as, well, his kingdom has come. The kingdom of God is nigh. I mean, this is what he said when he arrived, that the kingdom was nigh. So we saw during that sort of grace period, that 40 years after Messiah's resurrection and the siege, we saw a period of grace, and we also saw a lot of persecution coming toward the believing saints. We know the disciples, we know the martyrs, we know all of this, and we also know that there was a ton of persecution done in that entire period. You know, obviously after the siege and so on. So there were many who were martyred at that time. It's just how I see it. You have to excuse me too. I'm a little throat's kind of closing up a little bit. So I felt like the great persecution of the woman began to occur at this time. And when we get to 13, we saw that when the dragon saw that he was cast to earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. So all this persecution has been occurring since this time, and then has ramped up in the past 400 years, when at that point, the children no longer knew who they were, particularly Judah no longer knew who they were. So you had this sort of this long period of persecution and loss. And then thereafter, I think, is the period that we're in now in Revelation 12:14. And the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she may fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and time and a half from the face of the serpent. That's where I believe that we are headed into right now. And I think it's the face of the serpent, because we're looking directly at the war on us by the medical industry, by the medical industry's logo, 2 serpents. So the face of the serpent to me is the seed coming after the woman, and he's declared war on her for centuries, but now it's the sense of urgency. Now it's the war is open, we're coming after you. And so I believe that this initial rescue is of the elect bride, which we can get into. And thereafter, there is a flood that comes after the woman, which I interpret flood to be armies. The same type of flood that was used when Jerusalem was sieged, flood is also used there because there was a flood of armies that breached that, I forget the name of the area, but they breached the area and they were able to finally get into the temple and, really turn up that destruction. So I feel like there's a flood that comes after us, and a flood of armies, a flood of military, a flood of something like that. And at that point, the earth will open up her mouth, swallow up the flood in whatever manner that may be. They won't prosper, we know that. And then after the elect bride, the pure bride, is taken, I believe that the final verse there, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Christ. I believe that is again the war, the enmity between the seed carried out on the remnant that are left to go through the hour of trial, or hour of not tribulation necessarily, hour of temptation, hour of judgment for the nations that precedes the wrath. I think that's the period that we're entering into now. So I'll stop talking for a second, but I wanted to lay a foundation at least. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you talked about the elect. When I think of the elect, I'm thinking of, probably the first thing that comes up is when Yeshua is speaking to the Jews. He's down here on earth, and he talks about gathering his elect from the four winds.
Yes.
And he's going to blow a trumpet. Let me try to find that.
Is it Matt 24?
Yep. Nice. Okay, so let me get the full chapter, get a little context. Okay. So immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn.
Yeah.
And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this elect that's being reaped at this point, that also seems to correlate with what is that? The Church of Philadelphia. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, that's the Seventh Church of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Revelation 3.
Is it okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And actually, this is a famous verse, verse 10, right? Because you have kept my command to persevere. I also will keep you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. So that really plays into like this tribulation that's happening, and then these elect are taken. But if we go up to verse 9, verse 9 reveals that this is Yeshua. He's speaking to his people. He's speaking to Jews.
Yeah.
It says, indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. So
we all love that one.
Again?
We all love that one.
Right. It's definitely become a very popular verse as of late. But in this case, it also helps reveal that he is speaking to Jews, right? And so therefore this verse 10 is associated to that. Yes.
There are so many connections within the Church of Philadelphia to the Jews, there are some beautiful connections. Even though it's just like a short, like between 9 and 12, 4 verses here, but there are so many connections within that 4 verses to who the people are, besides just the synagogue of Satan piece. When you go to, for instance, Isaiah 62. Give me one moment. Isaiah 62. And I think it's Isaiah 60 as well. But for instance, I like Isaiah 62:3. There shall be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. And when you see wait, am I doing this right? Pillar of the temple, right on the name of my God. Oh yeah, that's right. It's the name. So, okay, I'm sorry. Isaiah 62:4. Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land be any more termed desolate, but thou shalt be called Hephzibah, and thy land Beulah, for the Lord delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married. So you have a new name being given to those who were called forsaken. So that's not for everyone. There's a particular people who have been forsaken. Also, in Revelation 3:9-12, it talks about the pillar in the temple of my God. Well, that's intimately associated with Jacob. Like if you read Jacob's Ladder, which is like a separate PDF you can find online, which you already obviously know about it, we both do. But also in Genesis 28, you'll see that Jacob was in an area, and he was taking a nap, and he received a dream from Yah, and when he received that dream, he got up and he realized, oh my gosh, this is the house of God. He's here with me. And he, the stones that he was sleeping on, he called them pillars, and he anointed them with oil at that time. And he said, this is the house of God. So when it's saying, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem. All of this ties into Jacob as well. There's also in verse 10, keeping the word of my patience, and we can actually find that in the 10 virgins parable when it talks about the bridegroom tarrying, and the bride that is prepared with the oil in the lamp, the virgins that are prepared at that time, and the virgins that are not prepared at that time. And what it tells you is that there's a particular people, there are these virgins, but there are only a portion of them that are prepared at the time of his coming, and then there's a portion of them that are not prepared at the coming. And so ultimately though, it's my understanding that those virgins, and I refer to those virgins as being Zion, that's who I believe that they are, that the elect of those with enough oil in their lamps, and the elect also ties into tithe. There, there's a lot, and we can get into a study on that. Right. But there is a pure version, a prepared version that is elect, that is first fruits unto the Lamb, and the rest will be brought into that, but they will have to endure that time of temptation, where they will be pleaded with face to face. And this is what we see in Ezekiel. This is the wilderness of the people. I feel like I'm going into a lot of different areas because the fact that this is so heavy.
Right. So, so at the end of what was that, Revelation 12? We talked about the woman being Israel, and that going into the wilderness, and then there is a point where she is protected, and that was correlating to what we were looking at with Revelation 3 with the Church of Philadelphia.
Yes, our temptation, and they are kept from it.
Correlated to Matthew 24. Those are linking together, in which all of this is looking a specific group in which Yeshua considers them the elect. And then that's what you're talking about with the first fruits.
Correct.
With the tithing, that 10%. So that definitely all comes together. And then, so if we have this elect, or this these chosen people going into the wilderness, I like you had some passages that you brought up where we're looking at, and it actually reveals where the wilderness is.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, so, yeah, I mean, to make a long story short, there are many passages using apocryphal books, and also coupling them with canonized scripture that point to a return to Eden. And spiritually, we know at this point that belief in our Messiah, belief in our second Adam, is a spiritual return to Eden. So in the spirit, we actually return to Eden when we return to rest, and that's very important for people to kind of understand that connection and what Messiah did, and how everything is sort of like a mirror image. So right now, heading into the end of all this, it's literally sort of a mirror image of the beginning. And so we're returning to the beginning where we were supposed to be prior to the fall. And this is what our Messiah does when we become yoked with him, when we become one with him and we know him and we're intimate with him, and he restores us to the Father pre-fall. So it would make sense that the elect would also see a physical return to Eden, and there are many scripts that point to that. Let's see here, because I have a few up. And do you have those up? Do you happen to have those up?
I have my own notes, but I didn't want to step on your toes with your notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Let me see, because I got my.
I have this one from Enoch.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, I got them up now. So it's the Enoch 58:5.
Yes.
Are you able to put that on the screen?
Oh, I thought it is on the screen. Is it not?
Is it?
You can't see it? It's.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I see it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a very key bit of scripture here. 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start. Enoch 58:5. But when the time shall come, then shall the power, the punishment, and the judgment take place, which the Lord of spirits has prepared for those who prostrate themselves to the judgment of righteousness. Okay? Those are our rulers. For those who abjure that judgment, okay, and for those who take his name in vain. That day has been prepared for the elect as a day of covenant, and for sinners as a day of inquisition. And that day shall be distributed for food 2 monsters, a female monster, whose name is Leviathan, dwelling in the depths of the sea, above the springs of waters, distributed for food. And a male monster whose name is Behemoth, which possesses, moving on his breast, the invisible wilderness. His name was Dinyaden, in the east of the garden, where the elect and righteous will dwell, where he received it from my ancestor, who was man, from Adam, the first of men, whom the Lord of spirits made. So there's so much going on here with this. we've already connected Leviathan to the wilderness period. So like if you find Leviathan in canonical scripts and also like in apocryphal books, like when you find Leviathan, like you can find some clues as to this wilderness period, because that goes hand in hand. He is set aside for food for those who reach that place. And Leviathan was created on, what day was it? The 4th or 5th day? I can't remember. In Eden. So it was part of that. Leviathan and Behemoth were both created in that same in the days of creation. Those two were created at that time too. So it also signals a return to Eden. But there's a lot.
I'm just gonna. Okay.
There's a lot here that's really important, because first of all, this Inquisition that happens, and this is pointed out in 2nd Esdras. It also mentions the Day of Inquisition. And so, what is the Day of Inquisition? This Day of Inquisition happens when the affliction of Zion is fulfilled, and we know that the affliction of Zion has been fulfilled. We have crossed over. We have overcome the 400-year affliction. So after that period of time, the affliction of Zion, there is this period of Inquisition, also known as the hour of temptation. And so, as you can see, it's for the elect a day of covenant, and for sinners a day of Inquisition. So the elect, the holy seed, the holy tenth that was promised by Jacob to Yah in Genesis 28, that elect will be brought into the covenant, the seal of the covenant, the bond of the covenant with the Messiah. And this covenant is outlined in Hosea 2, where it talks about the covenant made again with us over the earth. So again, a restoration to Eden, where you had Adam who had dominion, and so this dominion returns to the elect at that time. So it's a day of covenant, a day of coming together. And for sinners, though, it's a day of Inquisition. And for the sinners, it's also for those who take his name in vain. So no one else has taken his name but his nation. So what it means is that there will be a remnant, the remnant left to endure on in the wilderness of the people. So it'll be the time of judgment for the Gentiles, and our people will watch this judgment, as it says in Genesis 15, 13 and 14, I believe it is, where it says that after the 400 years, that there would be judgment of that nation, and then the people would come out with great substance.
Right.
So now you have all of us essentially entering a wilderness period. All of the seed of Jacob essentially entering into a wilderness period. But we have the elect of Jacob, that pure bride, pure in belief, who journey into the wilderness of what I believe is Eden, which I believe is the elect raised on high. I believe, and again, it's another study, so I'm trying to say things without having to go all the way over there, but when he comes, he appears in the clouds, and the mountains are his way, are his highway, and he is exalted. So it's like this kingdom happens overhead. So there is this elect brought up first as the first fruits of his kingdom, and then you have the remaining remnant who stays to endure. But the Lord is with them, and this is the most important thing I want any remnant to know, is that the Lord is it's like how he was with us in the wilderness. That's the whole point of him coming back in a cloud, is because he is present. You have an elect like a Moses able to go up to the mountain, able to hear the secrets because he's meek, able to, in Jubilees it's described all over, really, the secrets that were given to Moses. in the intimacy when he would go up into the mountain and actually speak with God, and then he would come out glowing, and they'd be like, what the heck is going on? Where, like, what are you guys doing up there? This kind of thing. So, and meanwhile, the Israelites went through, their own personal battles and impatience issues, and some were purged. And so we see the purging of the rebels. So we see this, there's a lot going on. Like, there's like Eden, and then there's like the wilderness of, that's in Saudi Arabia, like the Mount Sinai. So we kind of almost have like a merger of these two things that are going on. Yeah.
For this, you went deep right there, by the way.
I'm trying to just keep it.
But it was really good. It was really good.
Trying not to make it too confusing.
No, I mean it's just the nature of this topic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're here for. Like, can we get into some meat? Right?
Right? Got to. And that, don't get me started, because remember, what is he, what does he say in Malachi? Bring ye the tithes into the storehouse, so there might be meat in mine house. And meat, as we know, is, the meat of the word, the understanding, the wisdom, the actual church. Church, right. Wisdom. The church is with ecclesia, like Ecclesiastes and all these books of wisdom, like ecclesia, that's the church. So wisdom is the church. It's not just, the person who identifies as Christian or whatever else, if they lack wisdom. It is the church, the wisdom of the church. So, anyway, you just need the wisdom to be able to apply and to be able to fit and understand and see these scriptures, but you have to know the heart of Yah, and that's only just built on relationship, and that's how you receive the wisdom in order to process these end times messages, because you have to know his pattern, his ways, why he does the things that he does.
Right. And in the wilderness, Eden, we will be feasting on the word, as well as literally feasting on these monsters, right?
Yes.
But yeah, so that's such a huge piece of it, because now you have two huge tangibles, like physically huge, with Leviathan and Behemoth showing up.
Yes.
And then it gives even more of some understanding, the invisible wilderness. So that kind of gives a hint to where Eden is, and then and here we have that term come up again, the elect, right? So it's definitely all associating. Let's see.
And I just have to say too, with that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that elect and righteous. When I was reading through Enoch the other day, and I noticed that there's a distinction made between the elect and between the righteous. And so I'll just explain right now that I actually believe that the righteous has to do with the seed, and particularly with Zion. Because Zion has fulfilled the commandments of Yah, in terms of the holy law, the royal law, which is to love thy neighbor. It's something that every other nation has violated but us. So when it says righteous, I count Zion as righteous because we as a nation were made, we always were, but we were made into the meek servants of God. And so we would teach the nations what love is, through our affliction and through our pain and through our cries for justice and through our appeals to treat people the way that they should be treated, being the church. So to me, I determine the remnant of Zion in particular to be righteous, but there is an elect who have the Holy Spirit, have been truly born again, and have been purified by not behavior, but by faith and belief fully from the taint of the lies of the daughters of Babylon. So when it's talking about that 144K with respect to virgins, them being virgins, this isn't about literal virginity. This is about being made a virgin again in belief, the singleness of the eye, the singleness of the faith. And so not only do we understand are these a people, that's why it's Israel, that's why the 144K are the tribes of Israel specifically, because not only do you have to know who you are in the spirit, but you also need to know who you are in the flesh. And if you can know both of those things, then you've overcome. Because the world has, Satan's kingdom has done everything to rob you of both of those. So you've overcome when you have the understanding of who you are in the spirit and in the truth. Then you can walk with the Son of Man, because he had the same understanding. He brings us into it. He draws us close. So the elect are a bit closer in this time period. And then you will have the remnant who will be cleansed during this time of purification, in a time of temptation and inquisition, so that they can be brought into the out of the wilderness of the people, and instead brought into the bond of the covenant, which is where the elect will be. So ultimately there's a joining of everything. That's what the kingdom is. It's him, it's his elect, it's the joining of the remnant of the seed who have been purged, and those grafted in. And he sets up his kingdom. He does it in stages, and he does it in stages with mercy. Because this time of judgment seems like it's harsh in this time of inquisition, but it isn't. It's mercy. Everything he does is rooted in mercy. So he gives his seed, who haven't found him yet, a chance to find him as the world crumbles around them. And that elect of that group who have found him already, they get to lead the way. And the manner of doing that, I'm still figuring out, whether it's the leaving of crumbs of things for the remnant to understand, or whether it's a physical presence with the remnant, whatever the case may be. But the remnant will see miracles at this time. They'll begin to see them. They'll be weeping, which way to Zion? Has he forsaken us, or can we still, it'll be this thing, So, I'm trying to paint the bigger picture so that the scripts fit together and make sense, Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I was gonna get into an interesting portion that talks about Eden, where it appears to be sunken down or something. So this is Ezekiel 31, verse 15. It says, "Thus says the Most High Yah,
this is a good one.
In the day when it went down to hell, I caused mourning. I covered the deep because of it. I restrained its rivers, and the great waters were held back. I caused Lebanon to mourn for it, and all the trees of the field wilted because of it. I made the nation shake at the sound of its fall, when I cast it down to hell, together with those who descend into the pit, and all the trees of Eden. The choice and best of Lebanon, all that drink water, were comforted in the depths of the earth."
Come on now. I hadn't seen that one.
Okay, so so this is telling us that
oh no, you did send me this one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought we talked about it a little bit.
We did.
But yeah, okay, because this is how we're coming to the conclusion. Like, if Eden is the wilderness, which we've already looked at, and the wilderness or Eden is under the earth, then that explains why when Yeshua is coming back to get his elect to bring us into the wilderness, Eden, that's why it has to happen that way, because how else are we going to be able to get into the wilderness, Eden,
Right.
You know, if it's in a place where we don't, you know what I mean? Like humans can't.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
We don't know how to get down there. So yeah. Right.
You make a great point.
So I don't want to get too much into this, but I do want to mention this because it's been on my heart lately. I might end up doing a recording or something on it later. But this kind of goes hand in hand with the understanding of space. And when I say space, I mean the cosmos, cosmology. Cosmology is very, very important. I think that, you know, some of Judah knows, like, the world is not what we've been told.
Exactly.
Right? But some people I don't think that they see how important it is, because say this happened to, you know, tomorrow, and the chariots of the Most High come down and take this elect into Eden, right? So when I say the chariots, I'm not talking about like Roman chariots. I'm talking about swift-moving vehicles that are able to fly and maneuver, which most people would consider UFOs today. So once we understand that the true cosmology of the world, then you understand that there has to be some sort of celestial beings, probably angels, that are maneuvering these UFOs. Now, whether it's the fallen or whether they're holy angels, that's another thing. But I'm just saying that clearly it can't be aliens if you understand the cosmos.
Exactly.
Right. And so once you have that understanding, if you, let's say you one person, two people see this happen, right? One person has an understanding of the true cosmos and the other person does not. So they'll both see the same thing. One person will assume it must be aliens because they've already been programmed to associate aliens with these chariots.
Right?
The other person, understanding the true cosmology, that we are in a terrarium.
Right.
Okay? They will see and they will understand, like, wow, like, you know, something is going on in the spirit world and it is directly coming into our world. So that's all I'm saying. So again, that's why it's very, very important to understand the cosmos.
Definitely. I mean, that's 100% correct. I mean, if we're going to be in this truth at all, we have to understand Satan. The thing about this is that in the truth with the Holy Spirit, it reveals who our Father is. It reveals His nature, His character of our Elohim, our holy family. It also reveals who the enemy is and his tactics and his thinking and his inversions and his perversions. So we have to understand Satan's inverted way of thinking. So if the Father is doing one thing, guarantee Satan is over here trying to figure out how to do the complete opposite of that thing, you know, to resemble what Father does. And that's exactly what this whole cosmology deception is about, to hide him and to, of course, throw people entirely off course as we begin to see some of these things happening in the skies. And I mean, I can't add a whole lot to what you said, but it's incredibly important because we can see the deception being set up right now. I mean, it's been set up for years, and this kind of, it's weird because I think about this last 70 years, and 70 years is also referred to a few times in the scripts as being like a lifetime. And it's a lifetime, it's a, you know how our ancestors lived for, you know, hundreds and, you know, of years, but in this fallen, in the sort of end of this fallen world where, you know, we're kind of like, sin has had its measure, like its cup is full, like we only have this 70-year lifespan, and that's considered the full life. And so I think about the past 70 years, and what have we seen? We've seen you know, the imposters, because I want your video to stay up. We've seen the imposters, you know, take over that land. We've seen the forming of these government agencies like NASA, and so we've seen a lot of different things with respect to like the space program. A lot of stuff that was really urgently setting up the deception with the movies and entertainment and, you know, all of these different things to push a version of end time events on people, or to confuse people, or to get people off track, or whatever the case may be. So it's definitely, you know, all truth matters. I feel like all truth matters. So, you know, if you're in this understanding, and in your mind the study of our cosmology is unimportant, you know, I would suggest rethinking that view, because with the Galactic Federation, they're calling on, they're, you know, hey, we made touch with the Galactic Federation, you know, they're talking to us, they want to wait until you're ready. And yesterday, Pence announces that they're calling the Space Force team Guardians. What are they guarding? Well, because they're waiting for something. There is an eclipse, there is a great conjunction, there are signs in the sun, there are signs in the moon, there are signs in the stars, there are signs in the earth. What's going on here? And so, you know, we really have to be vigilant in these times, but it's going to be the intimacy with the sun that is the only thing that can keep us sober in these days, because the world is drunk. And so, you know, it's, you know,
that right?
Yeah. Heavy stuff, man.
If you guys don't know, December 14th was the eclipse, where it could be seen from a large portion of South America. During the eclipse, it just so happened that Chile ended up getting an earthquake. So an earthquake hit Chile during the eclipse, December 14th. It was like a 6.2 or something like that. Just very interesting, considering like it happened in a region that could actually see the eclipse as well.
Right. And right at the start of the eclipse as well, the earthquake started. Right at the start of the eclipse too. It's like they both same time.
Right?
Crazy.
For sure. And then let's see. Okay, and then you brought up the military. So now those that are going to be in the Space Force are called Guardians. So the Space Force is supposed to protect. Say again?
Oh no, I was just laughing.
Oh, right.
Silly.
This is almost like the textbook definition of what the Watchers were supposed to be doing. Like the Watchers, the fallen Watchers were supposed to be watching over mankind from above, right? So if they're considering protecting us from above, who is going to try to invade?
Right.
Because, which goes back to what you were saying, like, through all these movies, we always see the bad aliens come down, they destroy the nations, and then the nations have to gather together and destroy the aliens, right?
Yep.
But the only being that's going to come from the sky and destroy the nations is the Most High.
That's right.
So again, more programming.
Yep. Very well laid out. Exactly. Exactly. Because why else would there be such a sense of urgency at this time? Before it was entertainment and it was fun. It was like, yeah, this might be the truth. Let's Area 51. It's fun. It's kind of like a hobby. Like, I live here in Vegas and everything is like alien jerky and all this other stuff because of Area 51 out here. But now, like, why you remember early on in the year they were like, oh, the Pentagon confirmed UFO existence. That was right after COVID came. There have been so many space-oriented stories out. just within the past 8-9 months. And it should make you kind of go, they're preparing for something. And let's not forget what is it, Artemis? The coalition on the moon? The countries on the moon? I think it's like China, it's like however many countries. Why?
I didn't know it was called Artemis.
I might have that wrong. I think it's Artemis. It's,
Maybe. I missed that one.
Let me see.
There's so much going on.
I know. It's hard to keep up with. Artemis program. I could have this wrong. I don't remember the name of it, but a bunch of them, like the Chinese flag, like they just put it like on the moon, quote unquote, and it's part of a, some moon coalition where they want to go up, and they divided like the moon up to different sections. It's just stuff, man.
Aside from the Galactic Federation, right?
That's a part. Yeah, that's aside from that. This was a couple months ago. Yeah, they're doing some
stuff. I saw something about we're getting closer to. Well, I saw it and I thought, oh, well, we must be getting closer to transhumanism because what was it? There was Chinese soldiers. It looked like they were trying to create genetically enhanced soldiers or something. Did you see that?
I think I did see that. The entire world is moving toward artificial everything, AI everything. And when everything is artificial, that tells me you're getting rid of some people. You're trying to clean house. Does that not mean? Because we've been, and particularly us, I mean, everything has been made on our back. Like all the nations, everything has been made on the backs of the people who carry the blessing, right? So, with us gone in particular, they're really gonna need a way to, they think they're going to be able to implement, some sort of half human, half artificial deal here. And that's how everything is going to exist. You get rid of everybody you don't need. You get rid of the incorrigibles. It's just like, what is it, the Georgia Guidestones, where, I mean, straight up, it just says we need to reduce the population to 500 million, I think it was, and that's it. Is that right? Is it 500 million?
I can't remember. What was it called?
Okay. The Georgia Guidestones. It's like a Stonehenge type monument. You haven't seen these?
No, I remember.
Whoa!
But I remember what if it's 500,000 or 500 million.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember either. Yeah. But either way, it's a lot less than what we got going on already. So yeah, and it's like 10, like fake 10 Commandments type thing. Like, it's so weird. Okay,
so 500 million maintained million or 500.
Yeah.
Under maintained?
Right.
They're gonna try to just start over with this. Good grief.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Everybody's their own agenda.
That's the goal.
Well, I'm even more thankful that Father Yah is in control, because
yes.
Good grief.
Yeah. For real though. Imagine if he really had said, "No, I'm done with y'all." Oh my gosh, like, actually, we would have been gone by that. We'd have been gone by now. So. But,
right. And I mean, I think you brought this up at one point that it really is by grace. I can't remember, something happened, but I know just going off of what the patriarchs did to Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Selling him into slavery by the Hebrew law. The main brothers that sold him should have died. right? Because it was a violation. I think that even if that was going to happen, they were supposed to, like, he should be freed after, I think, 6 years or something like that.
Right.
So it just made more sense. And I mean, they're just, especially when you start looking into each of the brothers and how they live their lives, you know, they're kind of wild.
Right.
You know, when they're younger.
Yeah. Right.
So there, when the Most High is talking about ransoming, you know, a ransom for his people, you know, I hope one day we're able to get this story and see, you know, what was going on in the courts of heaven, like what he had to deal with, you know, to for us to have this grace, you know, even aside from everything that Yeshua himself did for us.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that type of grace could only come from like unsearchable, infinite, an unsearchable, infinite well of grace, like that never runs out because, woo, because we were a mess. I mean, that's all there is to it. And then the mercy, it is, and then okay, so you got his chosen, and then, but also too, just listen. Everything we see, when you look out the window right now, everything you see is held up literally by love and by mercy. Everything, because it shouldn't be. You think about this is I mean, his kingdom, his earth, his worldly plane was like given to Satan for a time. Which, for me, kind of reminds me of the fact that, you know, just like Jerusalem was taken from us and trodden down by Gentiles, like, this is his whole world he created out of love, and this dude got it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? That we gave over, quite literally. You know? Like, what have you done? But even in that, it's still held up by love. It just everything, what it comes down to, what it just boils down to, is just see my goodness, see my love. Because even for the wicked nations, this entire time has been a period of grace for them as well. It is right now. All the multitude of signs, the obviousness of this. This pandemic and what's going on with it, the obviousness of Space Force Guardians and everything going on, like people can kind of sniff out like something is not quite right, and it's just like you said, I don't wish to see anyone perish. That's not, you know, so the root of all that he does is mercy, and I think that there's such a twisted view of God that he's just so full of rage and fury, and indeed he is and he will be, but that's for a short moment. What's the bigger piece, the longer piece, the eternal piece, is the peace. It's the righteousness. It's the goodness. It's the love. It's the mercy. It's not, he doesn't even want to be mad forever. Like that's why he forgave our sins. Like, I don't even want to be mad forever. I just want you to understand, and then we good.
Right.
You know? So,
right.
So everything coming up, even though it's just so fearful for men to see, it's actually just such a time of mercy for people, because he doesn't have to do it. He could take who he wants to take and be gone, and then, you know, wipe everything out and start all over. He could, you know what I'm saying? So, so yeah, we serve an amazing Father, amazing King, who's on the way.
Absolutely. And he's on the way, is that what you said?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay. What's up next?
There's this Baruch that also, again, brings up, let's see. Oh, I think I already have this up. The 26th.
Is this our wilderness, Eden excuse me, our Eden
yes,
area group.
it continues. Let's see. So this is chapter 29 in Baruch 2, or the Apocalypse of Baruch. Verse 3, and it shall come to pass, when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, that Mashiach shall then begin to be revealed, and Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea, those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time, and then they shall be for food for all that are left. So again, we have these beasts associated with this time. The tribulation is beginning, the Mashiach is about to be revealed here. So I just wanted to show this, that throughout Scripture, Dante says this sometimes, but there's truth and consistency go together. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. That's exactly it.
Okay, this is Psalm 74.
Yep.
Verse 13, you divided the sea by your strength. You broke the heads of the sea serpents in the waters. You broke the heads of Leviathan in pieces and gave them as food to the people inhabiting the wilderness.
Yep.
Right?
And we know that wasn't the wilderness in the original, back in the first wilderness. That did not occur.
We would have, somebody would have wrote about this. Right?
I'm saying. Hungry as we were, we would have said something about that.
There's a description of Leviathan in, I think it's Job 41. I'm not going to get into it long, but I just wanted to bring it up so that people can look. Yeah, it is. Okay, it is chapter 41. So this whole chapter describes Leviathan, and it flat out describes a sea dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah, so think of, like, it reminds me of the monster movies, Cloverfield or Godzilla or something like that. Like, all these things that we are myths. And so, and then these books are not necessarily Psalm, but some of these books that we're going into have been hidden, right?
Yep.
So, like I was saying, with if Mashiach had come back and tomorrow and then took people would think, they would not think this is prophecy being fulfilled. They would think all the lies that we've been told.
Right.
And it's the same thing. If Leviathan came out, I don't think that most Christians would think, this is a sign of Mashiach coming back.
Right.
They would be rethinking, like, how their whole life, and the way that they see things. So these lies are just very, very dangerous.
They are. And again, mercy, because for the past 15-20 years we've had unprecedented access to information, and we're at a time where we're all at home. Like, for the most part, so many of us are, we're planted at home. We're not going out on a Saturday night like that, like, we're home. So, again, he's so good because he's like, man, sit here, study, watch, listen. And so in this time you're sober. So, anyone who's still sort of striving with, some of these alien, type, you get to the point where you don't want to know the truth. So at least you can't say, okay, I was deceived. Well, I just didn't want to know. So he's kind of like, I just feel him drawing that line, it said, "Let he who is just be just still. Let he who is righteous be righteous still. Let he who is filthy be filthy still. Let he who is unjust be unjust still." So there's a time when it's like grace runs out. Whoever you are now is who you're gonna be. I'm not saying that period is now, but I am saying that period is coming.
Right.
Because there's a seal. We know there's a strong delusion, right? So we have to take advantage of this very cheap, very accessible information before it's no longer here.
Seek Yah while he may be found.
That's right. That's right. And I just have to bring up too, at the end of that Baruch deal, I don't know if you have it on your screen, but I also love how it brings up that manna will also be released again. And that's clearly a wilderness reference where manna, and I think it's probably the treasury of manna.
It shall come to pass at that self-same time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high.
Look at that.
And they will eat of it in those years again.
Right.
These are they who have come to the consummation of time.
Yep.
So that really plays back into what you were saying, that the remnant themselves will also see all these miracles happening.
Exactly. Because his coming is a process. It's a process. It's not one and done. It's a process. It's a process of setting up his kingdom. And he does it before our eyes, which is amazing. So he gets his elect pure tenth, his holy seed. And then the rest, the remnant, again, they are not left hanging. They see his miracles, they experience his miracles, but they still have to seek, they still have to believe, they still, they still have to connect. And then at that point, they'll begin to see these things. They'll see that man. It says they'll receive wonders every day. They'll see wonders daily. And then you see the consummation of time, and then you see when the time of the advent of the Messiah is. That advent is a process. It's a period of time of him revealing himself. So he begins to reveal himself once the affliction of Zion is fulfilled. Then you begin to see, and we see it right now. We see it in the natural disasters that are going on all over the world. We're seeing him beginning to reveal himself, and that revealing of himself is why the nations are panicking. And he's revealing himself in us too. So all of this causes the nations to panic. So we're seeing all this stuff. So it's a process. And so when he returns in glory, that's not necessarily the one and done. He is present, but it's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. It's my time to reign. Here's the resurrection coming at that time, once that wilderness time has been fulfilled. Once that time where come to me, remnant, elect, remnant, who all's coming with me is coming with me. Everybody goes up, up, up. And then what that leaves is the wicked to be destroyed after that. That just leaves the wicked to be destroyed after that. So
I'm sorry.
No, I'm finished.
That really goes back to what you're saying about grace, because he's doing everything, like you're saying, it's a process. Things happen in stages, and so our lives are so short, on this earth. If he could have, just worked in bulk periods of time throughout the history of humanity, right? But because he does everything in stages, everybody is able to see, portions of him working throughout our little lives.
Right.
So, I don't know, it's just very, very, very well thought out. Of course, right? But there's just things I marvel at.
Same. There's endless stuff to marvel at. It's just the beauty of his wisdom and the way that he works and he's an artist. I think of him as being an artist, you know. You know, I think about I just think about like his promise to Abraham: those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed. And then, so you have that promise to Abraham, and then you come fast forward to the Messiah saying, listen, when I come back, I'm a divided like this. Whoever hurt you, whoever didn't feed you, whoever didn't feed my brethren, whoever didn't hurt you, who didn't visit you when you were sick, they didn't do it to me. Bye. Whoever did it to you, whoever helped you, whoever fed you, whoever clothed you, who did this to you, who helped you, they did it to me. Come into the kingdom prepared for you. So he fulfills. He talks about how he's going to fulfill this. And so what happened is that 400-year Deuteronomy 28 and Genesis 15:13, that sign and a wonder is obviously, it's a sign for us to wake up, right? It's an alarm for us, the alarm ringing. We keep hearing 400 years everywhere. I've heard it throughout my entire life. But we have that sign, but that's also a sign in essence to the nations, and it's a sign that judgment is coming, because that 400 years had to happen. It had to happen to be able to test where the hearts of the nations were. The royal law that says love thy neighbor gives the example of an afflicted man who was robbed, beaten, and lying in the street.
Right.
And he was skipped over, and then a Samaritan came and cleaned him up and helped him and gave to him and gave to him what was needful for his body, and set him up well. An afflicted person. So this is who the neighbor is. And so we had to be that neighbor that would test the hearts, that would look just like the Messiah, who would be mocked, who would be despised, who would be criminalized, who would be hated, who would be hung on a tree. If you love him, you need to love these people. If you say you love him, you've got to love these people. You've got to have a heart for these people. Even if you don't know who we are, you've got to have a heart for these people, given what they've been through, given their affliction. Even if you don't understand it, why it's happening, if you don't have a heart for, that's what sets a teacher like a Dana Stevens apart, because he had a heart for us even before he really understood why he did, to the extent where he was mad at God for seemingly not caring for us, even though we loved him so much. He couldn't understand it, and he was about to just completely reject God. You said that these curses were broken if they believed in you, and they believe in you so much. Where are you? And he was about to renounce it over us. So where is your heart toward us?
Right.
And that's what all of this is about. They managed to tell us that the judgment is about all these other things, all these vain things, that they've made up in their own minds as to what God cares about. The tree of good and evil is making up in your own mind what's good and what's evil in your own mind. You can decide what's good. You become your own God. And that's exactly what they've done. They've inherited lies and vanity. It's the vanity of, okay, well, giving to these people what they deserve. My morality is praying for cops and the president and the flag and our precious country and all these other things that have nothing to do with what God is asking us to do. Loving your neighbor. Right. It's very simple. So it's wisdom, it's artistry, it's a beautiful thing, and I believe that in this time of Inquisition that will become clearer, because the war on the remnant is going to be clear. They will, to a large extent, our people are going to be protected at this time, but it's going to become clear who the nations have the issue with, what this is about, I believe. And so, are you going to love the people, even if it means you might lose your own life? Are you going to love my people, finally, or are you not?
the hard line's going to be drawn.
Yes.
And
I truly think so.
That's like even if you're not able to see, I think that's Matthew 25 where he brought up that Yeshua is telling the nations, as you did it to these my brethren, you did it to me. So even if you didn't see that, the pattern is the same. In ancient Egypt, Egypt was judged and then destroyed based off of what they did to his people, Israel.
Correct.
Right? Same for Assyria. Assyria is judged and destroyed based on what happened with what they did to the northern tribes.
Come on with it.
We look at Babylon. Babylon was, judged and destroyed based on what they did to the Jews. So then Yeshua told them, you are going to go into all nations. Yeah. So guess what? The Jews were sent into all nations. Yeah. Our discipline is the testing of those nations.
Tell it. There it is.
Right? And then, but right. One of the saddest things right now is that right now, true Israel is awakening, and the church is asleep to see it.
Right.
That's
right.
To me, like, it's tough. I don't know. I'm not going to go into it because we don't have a lot of time left. But if you look at Jubilees,
I love me some Jubilees 1. I love me some Jubilees 1.
It's so prophetic.
The whole plan is laid out from top to bottom here.
Right?
The whole thing.
All in the first chapter.
All in the first chapter. What it is? What it is, quite literally, is the prodigal son. It's the same thing. Prodigal son summarizes this. That is the whole point. You gonna grab my inheritance and you gonna act a fool. You gonna go out and do what you want to do, and you're gonna come to realize that that's not hot. Son, you're gonna blow it all. You won't have anything. You're gonna be out here waiting with the pigs, the filth, and of course the filth is the filthy doctrines, the filthy beliefs. You're just gonna be out here wilding in everything you can do, and then you're gonna realize, man, this is what I wanted. This sucks. I need to go back home where it's right, But here's the difference. A lot of I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say this real quick, and then we'll jump right back into Jubilees 1. But the difference is, right now, we have so many of our people coming back, because remember what the prodigal son said. He said, like basically he's disgraced his father, so he's going to return home as a servant to his father, right? So this is in his mind. He's sin conscious. He's conscious of everything that he's done wrong. So a lot of our brothers and sisters are returning back in servitude. But in the heart of the Father, what did he do? He saw his son coming from afar off. And there was no discussion whatsoever about you coming back and serving me. It was, you are my son. Let me put this ring on you. Let me put this robe on you. You're back home. We gonna cut up, the fattest of, all the stuff. We gonna throw a party. You are my son. So that is the heart. And that gap is where the Messiah stands. That gap between some of us coming back with our heads low, sin conscious, and I think what I'm saying with this, and how some of our brothers and sisters are coming back in bondage themselves, just as far as trying to earn a father's love, which is something you can't do. And some of us who are coming back, and that's the difference with the elect. They're coming back as sons and daughters, understanding that they can't earn, because they understand the heart of the Father. that's the difference. You know, that's the difference, and I just feel like I have to make that distinction, because the servant is the head down. You know, look at all the stuff that I did. Look what I did. But being received as a son, and everything is restored with you just coming back home, and believing in the Father's goodness, and then just walking in that from here on out. That's the difference. And that's the difference between the Holy Spirit and returning in that way, in belief in what has already been done in the heart of the Father through the heart, which is the Messiah, or not quite coming back in rest, but coming back in strivings and fear. So, I'm sorry. Back to Jubilees 1.
We could have went on that for some time.
It's important.
I don't even know if I want to get into Jubilees 1. I mean, I do, but it's so good. I'm just gonna recommend that. If people have time, you're sitting at home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Read through Jubilees 1, meditate on it. It really is our story going through, right?
Yeah.
And up to this point, like, it just, I hope at some point people begin to see that this is Father Yah calling his children back.
Mm-hmm.
The awakening is happening right now, and people are not able to see it.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's supposed to be this way. The deeper you kind of get into it, you realize that for a certain chunk of people, they will return at the time they were supposed to return, and then the rest will return when they're supposed to. So it's just his plan rolling out, and we just step in line. You know what I'm saying? We step in line with what we've been given, because again, their blindness in part has happened to Israel. Right. Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And we're still in that period where the fullness of the Gentiles through through their own tribulation, that there's still a blindness, there's still a veil on a large part of Israel. But that's going to be the beauty of it, though, because we're going to, and you know this already, because we're going to see him do his greatest miracle in his people, a people who have been so afflicted, so downtrodden, so lied to and deceived about who they are, meant to feel like they're absolutely nothing, or that they have to be completely dependent on a Gentile system. We're going to see those people have a spirit of life breathed into them, and that's going to happen in the sight of the nations. And so they can see this miracle, and see people who've been broken and in pain and used up and all of this, now kings and priests. So, it's really just us waiting on that moment, and being excited for that moment, trying to plant as many seeds as we can, right, to lead people to the beauty of what that moment is going to be for the entirety of the remnant of us who are left. So
absolutely,
it's gonna be good stuff.
That's a good point, because as always, it's the Most High who grows the seed, right?
Yes.
And you never know when that seed is going to grow. That's in His time.
Mm-hmm.
But we know it's going to work out.
We do. Everything is going to be all right. I think we can say personally that I know I can say it wasn't until he decided to reveal himself to me that I could hear. It wasn't anything that I strived for. I wasn't trying to when I was reading the word in that moment, I thought, because I was coming from a new age perspective, so I was completely in the dark. I knew about conspiracies and such, but spiritual deceptions was just completely, I had no idea. I was lost. And so when I'm reading his word to try to get an esoteric New Age spin on it, and I realized this is not it at all, and he revealed himself to me. And it's not like I hadn't been told before that, you know, he is the savior. It's not any of that. I understood that, but when it was time, it was time. You know, it was completely out of my control. I wasn't looking for that at all. Next thing you know, I was saved. So it's like, it's just like, so hallelujah for that. So, he's in control. He's got a beautiful plan written out, and we're just along for the ride, really, But
I'm just glad that we got a little bit of your testimony there.
Well, some, generally boring, but when it brings the point home.
Let me see if we had any other questions. I don't know. We went through a lot here.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Excuse me. Whew.
That was good.
You think it's a good stopping point?
Yes, just because, I mean, I feel like we should stop here.
Okay.
It's been a while, so I guess you're right. We need to do this more often.
We do need to do this more often. There's so much to cover, and because it's so spread out from the last time, and we've received so much revelation and understanding since then, it's so much to try to cover. But there are so many different aspects of it, to who is going and when, to the timeline, to where, to, so there's a lot. And then couple it with all of the stuff going on in the world and all those signs,
Right.
So it's a lot to cover. So hopefully it wasn't too confusing as going from topic to topic, but it really is so big that there's a lot of context that needs to be set up and laid out for it. So yeah. But I encourage anyone who's listening to look at some of the scripts that we brought to you guys today. Of course, like Julie's one. What are some of the others? The Apocalypse of Baruch is a great outline.
Yep.
Yeah.
I read this one. Did I read this?
Which one?
Oh boy, I think I forgot to read this one.
Which one? Psalms?
Did we go over Apocalypse of Abraham?
We didn't. Not right now.
Okay.
That's a good one too, though. I have that in my notes. Next time. Yeah, right. Apocalypse of Abraham has some good stuff too. It actually describes. What's funny is it actually uses a portrait of Eden and the entire, I guess, history, quote unquote, of the world is kind of comes in and out of that portrait of Eden. And then there's a return to it also in the Apocalypse of Abraham that is prophesied as well, that connects with some of the other scripts from Enoch and Psalms, and some of the canonical scriptures with respect to Eden. So there's a lot of good stuff in the Apocalypse of Abraham as well if you're interested in knowing more about where we return to. You'll mainly find that in Enoch, the Apocalypse of Abraham, the Apocalypse of Baruch, a couple things in Isaiah. If you want to use like the Blue Letter Bible to look up maybe wilderness, and just put that word in, that helps me a lot as a tool to kind of see the verses that use the word, and you can begin to kind of compare and contrast how it's used in the context that it's used in throughout the different books. And when it's talking about, of course, the first wilderness in Egypt versus today's wilderness coming up. So, wilderness.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I might end up doing a video about how I came to trust certain books, things like that.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. Because I kind of want to go into it right now, but then that's a whole nother...
It is.
Yeah.
That's a good one, though. Let me join you on that one.
Okay.
Because if I could just maybe even, not even for the whole video, I don't have to be there for the whole thing, but like just for a few minutes, because there are a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. We'll just pop in.